Translocation, and in this video I will talk about the summary of 5 Dysfunctions of a Team by Patrick Lencioni. Now, the author of this book, when he was writing his first book, it dawned on to him that after few modifications, all the theories can also be applied to a group, and he promises that if you practice this enough, your team can thrive at any organization. And he begins his book by asking a question: what is the ultimate competitive advantage at any organization? Is it a strategy? Is it technology? Is it finance? In fact, none of these. The ultimate competitive advantage at any organization is the power of team. And he says, and he shared that how one of his friends grew $1 billion company just by the power of team. Although it is very, very difficult to find a team which is cohesive, because team is built up from people, and people have different behaviors, different characteristics. So it is very difficult to find a cohesive team, but he shares that if you do follow some simple steps, you can build a team which is cohesive, which have trust, and this team can take your organization to next level. Now, there are two critical truths about any organization, in fact most of the organization. First is that they try to solve a problem in isolation, which doesn't solve the overall purpose. And second, most of the organization falls into the prey of 5 dysfunctions. And what are those 5 dysfunctions? First one is absence of trust. Second is fear of conflict. Third is lack of commitment. Fourth one is absence of accountability. And the fifth one is inattention to result. Now, what we will do, we will discuss each of these dysfunctions in detail. Now, think the opposite, where your organization can go if your team does not have these dysfunctions. They trust each other, there is no fear of conflict, there is no lack of commitment, and everybody in your team is accountable, and they all are focused on common result or common goal. Now, first dysfunction is absence of trust. Now, we all know that without having trust, without team members trusting each other, teamwork is almost impossible. But why there are no trust? Because team members are vulnerable to each other. Now, as a leader, your responsibility is to establish vulnerability-based trust. You should be the first one in your team to come up with your own vulnerability. Share it with your team that how vulnerable you are, how many mistakes you have made in the past, what are your shortcomings, and create an environment where mistakes are not punished. In fact, mistakes are encouraged. And if you follow these rules, if you follow these steps, you will quickly see how your team members have started trusting each other. Next dysfunction is fear of conflict. Absence of trust leads to fear of conflict. In your team, if everybody is trusting each other and nobody is having a fear of making mistake, this will lead to even more conflicts. See, in any organization, conflict is seen as taboo. We don't want to talk about this. And but there is a difference. There's a difference between a productive conflict and destructive fighting. In productive conflict, all team members are focused on finding a common solution as early as possible, because they also want to solve another issue quickly. This actually saves time for organization. However, in destructive fighting, it creates more tension. It creates more hurt among team members. Now, your responsibility as a leader is to make sure that nobody is indulging in destructive fighting. Encourage your team member. encourage your team member for productive conflicts. And the second responsibility as a leader of you is to make sure that none of your team member with those discussions, with those conflicts, they don't get hurt. Fear of conflict leads to our third dysfunction, which is lack of commitment. In your team, if everybody is having conflict, they will not reach to common consensus. And as a result, they don't have clarity. As a result, they don't have buy-in. In a good team, everybody is heard, but even though they don't have buy-in, everybody rallies to common consensus. In good team, it is considered that taking decision is rather important than not taking a decision, because in future, if decision is bad, they can change their course of action. In dysfunctional team, however, these decisions are delayed because team members don't trust each other. Now, there are few suggestions that you need to apply if you want to avoid these dysfunctions. You need to have a specific, clear deadline. And if there is any ambiguity, then you need to assume the worst case. Now, as a leader, your responsibility is to be comfortable if your team is taking or making a wrong decision. You need to rally. You need to be in consensus with your team member decision. Lack of commitment leads to avoidance of accountability, which is our fourth dysfunction. Team members don't hold each other accountable. They have fear of losing personal relationship with that person. And by the way, accountability is an overused term with no clarity. Accountability meaning is that you call each other action. You call each other action if that action is having a negative impact on your team. But if you interpret accountability differently, it means that you respect your team members. It means that you are having a higher expectation from that team member, and it will step up your team member performance if you hold them accountable and if you have its interpretation differently. Now, there are few suggestions that you can apply to avoid this dysfunction. You need to publish your goal. You need to review that goal very often. And when it comes to rewarding a person, you need to reward a team rather than a person. And as a leader, your responsibility is to hold your team member accountable if they are not functioning correctly. Now, avoidance of accountability triggers our final dysfunction, which is inattention to result. When your team members are not feeling accountable of anything, then they will focus on their own goal. They will not focus on company goal. They will not focus on team goal. They will just think about their benefit. They will think about their own profit rather than the collective goals. Now, there are few suggestions that you can apply to avoid having this dysfunction. You need to publish your goal. You need to publish the progress of your goal. And you also need to publish the result of your goal. As a leader, your responsibility is to set the overall tone. All right, and that is it for the summary of 5 dysfunctions of a team. I really hope that as a leader, you will apply these suggestions, you will follow all the roles and responsibility, and you will, if you apply these things, then you will see a dramatic change within your team very, very soon. But the only thing is that you need to apply these principles or suggestions over and over. And that is it, folks, and hopefully you like the content. If you like the content, then please like and subscribe. If you did not like the content, then please mention in the comment box. Thank you for watching.